I'm getting by with my wicked ways. I'm loading up and I'm taking names. I wanna take my way to hell. I wanna take my way to hell. I'm getting by with my wicked ways. I'm loading up and I'm taking names. I wanna take my way to hell. I wanna take my way to hell.
The funny thing is, I hated Frank Mir as a kid. Back in the day, Frank was one of the original heels in the UFC, and I totally bought into it. But Mir should be remembered for a lot more than just being a good heel. You can make a very solid argument, and I'd probably agree with you, that Frank Mir is the best submission artist in heavyweight history.
Do some amazing things for a big man his size.
Look at that, look at that.
Looking for it quickly. He's got him spun. Can he finish? Here's the tap. Oh my! How quick was that? How good was that?
Frank Mir is a perfect example of a fighter that stayed improving through the years, starting off his career as a BJJ guy, sort of finding his striking about halfway through, finishing Nogueira and all that, and kind of falling in love with wrestling in his later years. Frank wanted to be as well-rounded as possible. In a division like heavyweight, you're much more likely to find blind spots, and Frank just didn't have one.
He's got an arm. Looking for the arm. He's got for a quick submission. Frank Mir.
He's an example of a guy who actually made jiu-jitsu intimidating. Frank Mir was the bone collector. Guard submissions, leg attacks, his arm lock on Petey Williams still haunts my dreams at night, and his crowning achievement, submitting jiu-jitsu ace Big Nog. That whole fight was absolutely insane. Frank goes from being rocked on the feet, being a punch or two away from getting TKO'd, to Nogueira getting his arm stolen in about 60 seconds flat. It's ironic that Nogueira is the one that choked by going for a choke.
He's got him out. Wow. Wow, indeed.
At one point, Frank Mir was 8-1, UFC heavyweight champion, and on top of the MMA world. But for those that don't know, right after, Frank was in a bad motorcycle accident that almost ended his career, breaking his goddamn femur in 2 places and tearing every single ligament in his knee.
I remember one big thunk on the back of my head, which I guess was the curb of the sidewalk hitting my helmet. And then I kind of did a little bit of a cartwheel and landed on the grass. I had gone about 80 feet, they said.
After a massive injury like that, taking 2 years to recover and having to relinquish the heavyweight title, you almost can't help but wonder what if, especially looking at the heavyweight division in 2004. How many guys back then would you really favor tooth and nail over prime Frank Mir? It's a small handful at best. All due respect. Does Frank really lose to Marcio Cruz if he didn't have his leg crushed 2 years prior? I have serious doubts.
It is all over. It is all over. Marcio Cruz has defeated Frank Mir.
His rivalry with Brock Lesnar was one of the first rivalries that got me interested in MMA. Being a pro wrestling fan, I was rooting for Brock. Frank did a hell of a job at UFC 81, catching Brock in a knee bar, getting drugged like halfway across the mat, and getting the sub over a guy that more closely resembles a gorilla than a normal human being. Going into the rematch, I totally fell for all of Frank's taunting.
He's not going to go out there and throw a tip kick and a low roundhouse and jab hook, and he's not going to pass my guard with a butt flop and sit over to the mount and hit a Kimura and switch over to north-south choke. I'll tell you what those are later, Brock, so in case you were confused.
I'm a proven athlete. I'm the best of the best at amateur wrestling. He's a glorified karate kid that won a few fights, and here he is.
Phony pro wrestler guy, Brock has my belt. I want Brock to be the first guy to choke on his own blood and die. Yes, he really said that last one.
Wait! And my double's all I need for MMA. Frank Mir, you're mine. Let's go. It's not the WWE.
By the time UFC 100 came around, Brock cashed in every single receipt from the previous 18 months. It kind of bums me out we never got a trilogy out of these two. I mean, Brock made some really good adjustments, but I'm still favoring Mir in the trilogy if we're being all the way for real.
Frank Mir had a horseshoe up his ass. Can you see me now? Time to go plow my wife.
One of Frank's biggest strengths was his fight IQ. Genuinely in the minority of fighters you could totally see being a coach. And hey, wouldn't you know it, Bella Mir is an undefeated prospect. Was Frank gonna go for a triangle against Brock so he could get Ricardo Arona'd? Hell no. Fish for a leg. Was he going to get into a bar fight with Tank Abbott? Hell no. Transition from omoplata to a toe hold. He was such a high-level jiu-jitsu practitioner, when you would see people take him down, you'd almost get confused. Like, what do you gain from this situation? Even with his injury looming large in 2004, Frank still carved out a hell of a career for himself. Two-time heavyweight champion, BJJ pioneer, first to KO and first to sub Big Nog. And for bonus points, the only man to truly get under Brock Lesnar's skin, which is epic. Hopefully he makes it into the Hall of Fame one of these days. The guy's more than earned it. One of the undisputed GOATs of MMA Jiu-Jitsu.